So now, please welcome to the podium Jeff Fleming, Director of Communications in the Office of Mayor Cavalier Johnson and Chair of our Rotary Person of the Year Committee. Thanks. This is a great day. It's one of my favorite days in the Rotary calendar every year. I want to start by offering my congratulations to Janan. We recognize people who have accomplished remarkable things in their work life. There are honors for philanthropists and for heroes. There are honors for student achievers and sports stars. But there are few honors for accomplishments of people in their work lives. In the past, we've honored leaders of large corporations and academic institutions. We've also highlighted leaders of smaller operations. In every case, the honored people were nominated by members of this club. And that's a vital part of this whole process. And it leads to the significance of this award. This year, we received numerous nominations of very highly qualified people for this honor. I want to thank my fellow committee members for their careful work in vetting all the nominations, but I particularly want to thank those who submitted nominations. One aspect of this award that I always look forward to is learning more about the work of the winner. And frequently, I'm even more amazed by the winner's work after I hear from them. I'm guessing that will be the case today. Without further ado, I'm going to call on Barbara Velez of our committee to make the formal introduction.
Well, isn't today my special day? To get a check from Mary, to have the opportunity to stand before you and talk about someone I admire greatly. As Jeff explained, when the Rotary Person of the Year selection deliberations take place, the committee is charged with determining who, within his or her professional career, passes the Rotary four-way test and elevates his or her profession, industry, or mission to a level that significantly impacts our city and beyond. Janan Najeeb was chosen from a field of extraordinary humans who have done remarkable things. She rose to the top of this very competitive and worthy field because her accomplishments stood out from the day she created the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition and continue to exceed expectations today. I expect those achievements will continue to resonate and impact us for years to come. Decades ago, Janan was a trained microbiologist, raising 5 children and managing a household with a husband's own demanding career as a physician. It was certainly a full plate of responsibility. However, Janan is also a woman of faith who loves her culture as a Muslim. Raised principally in Milwaukee, Janan was keenly aware of the misunderstanding surrounding the beauty of Islam. She determined it was important to share what it means to be a Muslim while also respecting the differences of other religions and cultures. Imagine the courage and determination it took to fulfill that mission. And courage, determination, and conviction have driven Janan to widen understanding and bridge the gaps. Janan has led the creation of the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition, the Wisconsin Muslim Journal, the Wisconsin Muslim Alliance, the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival, the Islamic Resource Center, and more. She has also been an adjunct professor at Cardinal Stritch University, and in 2016 was the first Muslim to address Wisconsin's legislature in its 174-year history to deliver the opening prayer. Janan and her MMWC members worked tirelessly with our club to shop, sort, box, and deliver nearly 10 truckloads of needed clothing, blankets, prayer rugs, children's toys and games, and other supplies for Afghan refugees housed at Fort McCoy. True to form, she didn't stop there. In February of this year, Janan and the staff at the Islamic Resource Center and the Women's Coalition launched a community gathering for Milwaukee area teens to be a buddy for Afghan teens newly relocated here. She serves on several boards of directors, including Rotary, and continues to create and implement ideas that enrich the fabric of our city. Janan has been the recipient of numerous awards and recognitions, including the International Institute of Wisconsin's World Citizen Award, that's a mouthful, the Wisconsin Community Fund's Grantee of the Year Award, the National Council on American Islamic Relations Activism Award, and the ACLU Special Recognition Award, and now the Rotary Club of Milwaukee's Person of the Year. Janan, as a woman, as a Rotarian, as a wife, and as a mother, thank you for standing up for progressive thinking and paving the way for so many. And to you, my fellow Rotarians, I am honored to introduce a video giving you a glimpse into Janan's character and impact.
We're honoring Janan Najeeb today because of her tremendous contributions to the Muslim community and the entire community in Milwaukee through her involvement not only with the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition, but with so many of the other tremendous organizations that she's involved with.
I feel like she's sort of a kindred spirit. So I was just drawn to her because she just had this spirit like, here's what I'm doing, here's how I think you can help me, here's what I can bring to the table, let's work. I was like, absolutely, absolutely. I want to be a part of whatever you're doing.
I always tell my friends, when you go to other Muslim communities in different cities in the U.S., if anybody ever needs any resources on the Muslim community or on Islam in general, they're always going to the local mosque and the local imam. But over here, everybody comes to Janan.
Janan's a person that she doesn't do it for glory. She doesn't do it to go out there and seek recognition. She does it because it's something that needs to get done. So she really digs in and works to make sure that there are these levels of understanding in the community. That has meant so much to me over time, but it means so much to the people in Milwaukee as well.
When Janan and I first met, it was strictly as people who believed in civil liberties. But what I quickly found out was she's hilarious. She's incredibly smart. She's up on all the issues. And the other women I met with through the MMWC were the same way.
Janan is always amazing me because she's actually been running this organization for, I guess, almost 3 decades. And really, most of that time, she was doing it when, she's been a wife. She is the mother of 5 children.
So what has incredibly impressed me with Janan over my involvement with her is her ability to step in and get things done. She truly is a person of action. And one of the areas where I was able to see this in the last year was the Afghan refugees who came into Fort McCoy. Within a very short window of time, literally days, she was able to marshal not only her community resources, but all those resources that Rotary was able to provide what these refugees needed in a very short time period. And the management at Fort McCoy actually came back and said the trucks that Janan was involved in organizing and delivering were the most organized and the most needed trucks that they received throughout the entire process.
Where I think the passion comes from is from her inner being. I think it's just who she is. Some folks just have that drive. They get up and they go because they want to make a difference and they want to see tangible results on the ground. Janan's one of those people.
Regardless of whether they are a brand new guest to this country as a refugee or a well-established 3rd or 4th generation doctor's wife, She understands the entire scope of humanity and what people need at what point in their lives. She has that innate ability.
I feel like you can't leave a meeting with Janan not being more informed.
Janan's work over years and years that she's been involved in Milwaukee has been extremely important for understanding. No matter what side of town you're on, Janan has been a force.
Like I said, she's a great spokesperson for the Muslim community. But she's actually a great spokesperson just for, I think, people of color in general in Milwaukee, for women.
You can't see her in action and not become a big fan.
I often talk about, the need for us to have partners and partnership in Milwaukee, and there's no better partner, I think, concerned about bridging gaps between peoples than Janan.
When Janan Najeeb someday takes a well-deserved retirement, they're going to have to hire 4 people to replace her.
She's a brilliant woman, and she's fierce. And again, like I said, for people like me, that combination, I mean, how can you not be drawn to that?
If I could just clone Janan and put her in every different community in the country, I think that this world will be a better place for it.
Janan, will you please come up to the stage? I'd like to offer all of our appreciation for everything that you have done. It is an absolute honor to present you with the Rotary Club of Milwaukee 2022 Person of the Year.
Wow. I am speechless. And for all of you that know me, that never happens. I am really, truly humbled by this honor. And I honestly have to say, only in America. Only in America would you witness an American, Palestinian, Muslim, immigrant woman as Rotary Person of the Year. Only in America. Thank you, Milwaukee Rotary, for making history in Wisconsin as the first Muslim woman to receive this honor. Thank you, President Todd Bentley, for everything that you've done. Thank you, Jeff Fleming. Thank you to the Rotary Person of the Year Committee. I am really honored because I know the giants that are in this room and the giants that are part of this organization. I am really, truly humbled. Thank you, Sister Kathleen, for that just beautiful, beautiful invocation and thoughtful invocation. But my very special thanks to Barbara Velez for the nomination and the incredible introduction. It truly means so much when the nomination comes from an amazing person in her own right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of the individuals that participated in this surprise video. You really, I was not expecting this at all. Thank you so much. It means so much to me because each one of the individuals are within their own right, very, very amazing and special people. Achievements are really seldom the result of one person. It takes a village. My greatest cheerleaders have always been my husband and my children. It's not easy to do all of the things you want to do while raising 5 children and having a husband with 4 medical specialties, and so he's never available. That's sort of to circumvent the fact that I'm never available. So yeah, anyhow. Followed, of course, by my incredible board of the MMWC, staff, friends, mentors, supporters, people who believed in the vision and assisted every step of the way. I share this award with all of you. This was not me by myself. Thank you. A friend of mine sent me a note yesterday, and she said, you know, leaders don't wake up one day and say, I want to be a leader today. Really, what happens is they set out to make a difference because they recognize that there is a need. And they don't look outwards for others to solve the problem. Rather, they look inwards and decide, what can they do about it? What can I do about this problem? And it's never really about the role, although all of these kudos are definitely wonderful, but it's always about the goal. What is the goal that we want to achieve? You know, I thought for a while about what I have been doing these past several decades, which is really building bridges and trying to promote understanding and building community and creating that sense of community that I know betters humanity and betters all of us. But I was asked, what I want to talk about. And I thought, well, you can do a Google search and find out everything you need to know about me. So instead, I'm going to talk a little bit about what led me to this work. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I hope all of you learn today. I am, by birth, Palestinian. I was born in Jerusalem. From the roof of my home, my family's home, we could see Al-Aqsa compound, the Dome of the Rock, and Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the 3rd holiest sites for Muslims around the world. But I came to the United States as a 3-year-old, so I'm a naturalized citizen. Yet in many ways, I see myself as a 3rd-generation American. My grandfather was a citizen. He was a merchant, and he traveled between the US and Palestine, spending a lot of time in Milwaukee. Yes, we're still trying to figure out why Milwaukee. He is, in fact, buried in Milwaukee. My father joined him as a young teen. In fact, my grandfather died in Milwaukee and is buried here. My father finished high school, and his father died when he was only 16 years of age. But he continued here, finished high school, technical school, and served in the US Army. So yes, we as Muslims serve in the Army. He then went overseas and got married, and my brother and I were born there. And this is our house in Palestine. When I was 3 years old, my family came to the United States, Milwaukee that is. The rest is history. And that's cute little me. Growing up in Milwaukee, there was a very small Muslim community. I remember being in school, and not only was my brother and I the only Muslims in every school that we went to, but none of my classmates had ever met a Muslim or even knew what a Muslim was. In fact, many of my teachers didn't know anything about Islam. At that time, an interfaith marriage was a Catholic and a Lutheran. But that experience planted the seeds of building community by building bridges and working to promote understanding. My parents were part of the first Muslim-Christian dialogue group in the country that was started right here in Milwaukee by a couple of Catholic nuns at Cardinal Stritch University. My decades of experience in this area, I have really learned that most fear of the other is simply the result of having not met someone from that particular group. People are not naturally hateful, at least you hope not. There might be a few, but in general, it's just simply being fearful of the other, especially if you've been taught to fear the other. And so I found that by creating opportunities for dialogue and interaction, that was the absolutely best way to counter erroneous narratives. There have been so many times, I can't even tell you the number of times over the nearly 3 decades, that I have sat around a table with a group of people that have never met a Muslim, and literally, they're fearful to even put their arms down. And I usually start out by saying something to just sort of make them feel comfortable and tell them, don't let this scarf scare you. I do have hair under there. It's just used for a bad hair day. And immediately, slowly, you start to see that people begin to feel a little bit more comfortable. And then we start complaining about our husbands, sorry. We start talking about our kids and raising our kids. We start talking about what foods we like and don't like, what restaurants we like. And pretty soon, everyone feels comfortable, and you realize we're all pretty much the same. And that's the first step of building bridges. What do I want you to know today? I want you to know about your Muslim neighbors. We are an incredibly diverse community. About 1/3 of us are African American. Many don't know that about 30% of the African slaves that were brought to the United States were of Muslim origin. Many were forced to leave their faith by their slave owners, yet there are many African Americans that decided to embrace Islam within the past 70 years as they began to trace their history. Now, the immigrant population is multi-generational and hail from dozens of countries, not only in the United States, but right here in Milwaukee. The community leans young, with many families with young children. And there's a huge representation in STEM fields, particularly medicine, engineering, mathematics. I think if you were to check with the guests today, you're going to find those areas very highly represented. There's also a significant number of business owners. It's a very philanthropic community with particular concern for victims of war, natural disasters, and all types of oppression. And there's a religious obligation to care for orphans and widows that we take very seriously. It's a well-educated community, with the immigrants in particular representing what is often called a brain drain to the West. Many highly educated women, particularly in the fields of medicine and education. It's a very family and community-oriented group. Waves of refugees that have come vary in terms of needs and education levels, with some being well-educated and others being illiterate among the refugees. Some groups have posed a real challenge these past 2 decades due to their needs and trauma. Now, don't believe the stereotypes about Muslim women. While every community has exceptions, and we certainly do as well, Most are equal partners in their marriages and are the backbone of the community. In terms of education, Pew Research places American Muslim women among the most highly educated, a close second to Jewish American women. Don't let the expression of modesty confuse you. We are proud and very comfortable in our hijabs. In fact, we believe it's expressed in many faiths. I often take a look at images of the Virgin Mary or Mother Teresa, and I always say they look very Muslim-y to me. Contrary to popular belief, Muslims are not looking to impose Sharia law in the United States. Let's think about this. Muslims make up about 2% of the US population. 1% are probably non-practicing. And so what are the chances that they want to overthrow the Constitution of the United States and impose a foreign law? Let's just think about that. What is Sharia law anyway? Is it the scary boogeyman? It has 5 basic tenets: the preservation and protection of life, the freedom of religion, the preservation and protection of the intellect, basically free will, the protection of private ownership and property, meaning the government doesn't come and just take what you have, and the protection and procreation of the species and the earth and nature. That sounds very much like the Constitution to me. This is Sharia law, the basis of Sharia law for over 1,400 years. They often say battles are won, they often say battles are won on paper in the court of opinion. And this is usually done by creating definitions that are not accurate, but serve to build a specific image about people. Jihad is a perfect example. What does jihad mean? Who came up with the idea of holy war? That's actually a term during the Crusades that was brought up by the Crusaders. Jihad means struggle. Jihad is used for names. People name their kids jihad, and we believe that the greatest jihad is the struggle to do what is right within your heart. It's a very beautiful term. Who decided to hijack that term and impose on us what jihad really means? What are some of the commonalities with Jews and Christians? Our holiest site is the Kaaba. Around it, praying. This is located in modern-day Saudi Arabia, who I am not a fan of, by the way. I just want to get that out there. But this is the holiest site for Muslims. And what is unique about it? We believe it was built by Prophet Abraham and by his son Ishmael, and is the first place on earth for the worship of one God. So Muslims, wherever they are in the world, will turn to the direction of the Kaaba to symbolically show that we worship the God of Abraham, which is the God that the Jews and Christians also worship. We pray our 5 daily prayers, directing ourselves towards Mecca. What are some of our religious requirements and commonalities? To recognize Jews and Christians, they are considered people of Scripture or people of the book within the Holy Quran. We share the same moral code, believe in one God. The God of Abraham is creator of the universe. We use the word Allah, as Sister Kathleen so beautifully used. It's not a Muslim God, it's simply the Arabic word for God. We believe in the virgin birth of Jesus, who we believe is a beloved prophet. And we have the immense love for the Virgin Mary. In fact, there's an entire chapter on Mary in the Quran. I often used to love our interfaith discussions with Christian women, because the Muslim woman always knew the heritage and the descendants and the background and the history of Mary even more than the Christian woman. There are, in fact, more references in the Quran to Moses than there is to Muhammad. And in order to have enough time for Q&A, I'd like to just end with this very brief verse from the Quran. O humanity, you have been created out of a single male and a female, and made into nations and tribes, so you may come to know and cherish one another, not despise each other. Truly, the best amongst you is the one that is most conscious of God. Thank you for learning with me today. I would love to hear any questions you have, and don't limit it to what I was able to cover in 10 minutes. That's not very much, but please feel free to ask whatever questions you have, including the online folks, the virtual folks. Dr. Ashmore.
Janan, as a proud Palestinian woman, what advice would you give to us Americans in support of achieving Palestinian human rights, especially given the fact that at least 6 human rights organizations internationally have recently labeled Israel an apartheid regime?
Well, so much for not being political today. Well, obviously, as a Palestinian, I believe that, in order to achieve peace, that our country needs to be an honest broker, needs to think about the Palestinian civilians that have been suffering for 70 years. And I think that we need to also follow what pretty much the rest of the countries in the world are doing, and not veto things that has enabled the Palestinians to suffer and to live in open-air prisons. So thank you, Dr. Ashmore. Next. I'm curious, are headscarves determined by the Quran, or was it something that over time women adopted? Can you give us a little bit of the history culturally and religiously why women do wear a headscarf? Thank you so much for that question. Yes, as you saw from the photos that I had, we believe that modesty is something that was revealed in all faiths, that it's not particular just to Muslims, but over time, other faiths, for different reasons, may have changed that. The Quran itself does have verses that specifically specify covering, and I need to emphasize that modesty is just not for women. Modesty is also for men. So you're gonna, if you come to any mosque, even in August and 90-degree weather, you're going to find the men in long sleeves, long pants. Many times they and during prayer, many times they cover their heads. So modesty is across the board. But not only is it found in the Quran, but we use the Quran and the tradition of the Prophet. And so we believe that the Prophet's tradition exemplified how the teachings in the Quran are supposed to be practiced. So when this aspect was revealed, all of the women at the time, the Muslim women, covered as a form of modesty. And there's many reasons for it. For Muslims, we believe not only does it designate you as a person of faith in the same way that when you see a nun, for example, or Orthodox Jewish woman or Amish woman or any of these, you kind of look at them as a person of faith. And hopefully for Muslim women, we don't say, oh, they're oppressed, but we see that as also being a person of faith. but also it has a lot to do with the purpose of what we believe, why were we created? Well, what is the purpose of our creation? And so the purpose of our creation is to really do good on earth. And so it's important for people to deal with us on a higher level. And so we believe that when people deal with us based on who we are, based on our character, rather than, how long our legs are or how beautiful our cleavage is, that it elevates the conversation. Now, when we are women together, we dress as we want. We, our hair is uncovered. We'll wear short skirts. We dance. We do whatever. But this is our public attire. So this is specifically our public attire. And the idea is really to take society and elevate them. This is what we believe, that it just will elevate a society to deal with each other on a different level. I hope that answers your question.
Congratulations, Janan.
Thank you.
I understand why you had your father and your grandfather emphasized in the presentation because of their connection with Milwaukee. But I know that your mother was also a leader in the Muslim community.
Mm-hmm.
And, a very powerful woman when she was active in the community. And I thought that I would like to give you the opportunity to discuss the influence maybe that the women in your life, your mother had, and also your view towards, there's a huge issue with women and Islam. And I think I want to give you the chance to discuss leadership, women's leadership. After all, your organization that you founded, the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition, implied a need for that kind of organization and a leadership. So if you could comment on that.
Thank you. Yes. And, I also didn't include any of my kids or there's lots of things that I could not within the 10 minutes include in the presentation, but I really thank you for that. I included my grandfather and my father because both of them have passed away, and they were kind of like the reason for locating in Milwaukee. But for everyone and many within the Muslim community that know my mother know that she's a powerhouse. And so she was the boss in the family, and she definitely raised not only strong men, strong boys, but she raised strong women. And the most important thing that I think that she taught us is that you never cave in to what is wrong, you never accept injustice, and you stand up for what is right, because you don't answer to people, you answer to God. And so I can't imagine a better lesson than that. And she has definitely had tremendous influence, I think, not only on her immediate family, but on so many people within the community that have interacted with her. And, just like starting with the Women's Coalition, it wasn't a matter of, okay, we just need to, and we know we have a domestic violence program, a culturally specific one. So we see a lot of garbage that is just heartbreaking. And so there's no community that is immune to this type of thing. But that is not something that is sanctioned by Islam. That is not something that is acceptable. If we look back even at the, and I'll just give a brief example, at the life of Prophet Muhammad, who was his wife Khadijah. She was 15 years older than him. She was widowed twice. She was a businesswoman. She employed him, and then she asked him to marry her. And that's who his wife was. She was always well known in this way. And so we have, throughout history, the first university in the world was built in Morocco by a Muslim woman. We don't know these facts. And even for Muslims, I think some of that history, unfortunately, has been lost through decades, and I don't want to give excuses, but a lot of times decades of colonialism and war and disruption and poverty, and pretty soon people are just, who suffers in these cases? It's usually women and children. And so So one of the reasons that I felt it was important for this organization to specifically have the name of woman in it and to be led by women is because of the fact that there was so much misinformation and so much that was also being done by Muslims themselves that was not representative of what Islam is supposed to be. And so we just wanted to be in your face, and we are still in your face.
Congratulations, my friend. I'm wondering, Janan, if you can update us on the resettlement process. Roughly how many families have come to the community, and what has that process been like?
Now, I don't know exactly the number. I sit on some of the state task forces and listen to them. But I know that Sheila is here from Hanan Refugee Group. But I believe that across the state, they were saying that it was going to be about 800. But in Milwaukee itself, I know that we have probably about 400, maybe. About close to 500 in Milwaukee. Our focus has been predominantly with the kids because our experience with previous refugee communities that have come in, we have really seen bullying. We have seen kids, that are suffering and then they don't want to go to school. And so we thought we're going to focus, the resettlement is resettlement, and they're getting them jobs and getting them settled, which is all incredibly important. But there's something to be said about the well-being and the welfare of the children. And so that's really what we have been focusing on with the buddy program and these types of programs. And I want to just do a shout out one more time to my fellow Rotarians. I mean, I'm trying to remember how much was raised by Rotary that helped us to fill, and I just want to make the correction. It was actually, I think, 6 or 7 truckloads that we took to Fort McCoy, but it was all brand new items, and so many of the Rotarians themselves that did shopping went on shopping sprees and hauled things down to the center and helped us pack and just, I don't know, it was $30,000-$40,000. I don't even remember exactly how much that they raised. So I want to do a shout out to all of you. I think there's one more. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Janan. We're all so happy for you and proud of you. And just reading the 4-way test of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, one of them, the questions being, will it be build goodwill and better friendships? And I was wondering if you could share with Rotarians or people who are listening who are not members of the Muslim community the top 3 things that they could do to build goodwill and better friendships with the Muslim community.
Thank you. That's really a wonderful question. And I think it has a lot to do with kind of, where I was going with my presentation. Just get to know people. Really get to know people, and get to know them not as you assume they are, but let them tell their narrative. Let them tell their story. And then if you want to, you want to help, if you're dealing with refugees or you're dealing with immigrants, find ways that you can assist. We have with the buddy program, we have a number of ESL teachers that just hang out with us as well to participate. There's always things that can be done to assist and to build goodwill. But I think also one of the most important things that can happen, I always say that, everyone has their crazy Uncle Bob, the one that spouts at the mouth and doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. So when you're sitting at your Thanksgiving table and Uncle Bob is talking about those Muslims that want to impose Sharia law, I hope maybe you have just a little bit more information now. And I think that that's, it's really, I always say that I go back to the words of several people. Archbishop Desmond Tutu had said during apartheid South Africa, he said, if you're not actively going to be part of the solution, it means you're part of the problem. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that if you see an injustice or you see a wrong, try and stop it with your hand. If you can't, then use your voice or write against it, And if you can't, then continue to hate it within your heart. That means you will never be okay with it, because it's not okay to be okay with injustice. And so that's just what I would encourage everyone to do. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.